It was late June of 2022 when I made the mesocosm. 6 months have elapsed since then. The year has evolved from summer to winter. We endured a hurricane that turned out to be the mightiest storm Canada had ever seen. And through it all, life in the mesocosm has flourished. I've drawn a single droplet taken from the soil at one corner of the mesocosm, and there is so much life, so much in this single drop. Here we can see filaments of plankton, algae, and busy protozoa. Before I even put the sample droplet under the microscope, I could tell the ecosystem was healthy, filled not just with plants like algae, but with microscopic animals. I could tell because the water of the mesocosm was clear. And in the droplet, I found many of these ciliated microbes. One of the advantages of working with digital videography is one can manipulate light in amazing and new ways not possible only a generation ago. Here I've manipulated certain frequencies of light to emulate fluorescence, and it brings out many of the beautiful colors of the ciliate. But the thing I find most amazing of all is that the digitally emulated fluorescence allows us to see its hundreds, perhaps thousands of ciliae, tiny hairs. These hairs are how it moves through the environment and most likely plays a role in how it senses the environment. When we remove the artificial fluorescence, we see it as a transparent organism swimming among a variety of algae. And given its abundance, it's obviously doing well in the mesocosm. In our very first episode, we took a look at this alga. This is a species of Closterium. As microorganisms go, it's fairly large in length, width, and breadth. Now, when filming at the microscopic level, it's hard to bring such a large organism fully into focus, a reality you can see here as I move the focus plane to different levels of the Closterium so that you can see the different parts of its body. But the power of modern digital imaging once again comes to the rescue, and I have created a merged image of all the different points of focus, creating this extraordinarily detailed image of a Closterium, clearly showing the organism's pyrenoids, chloroplast, and nucleus. Pushing digital imaging technology even further, we can transfer the image to false light, which not only brings out startling detail among its organelles, but causes its cytoplasm, kind of like a microbe's blood, to glow as if it were the magical elixir of life. The Closterium is the closest unicellular relative of modern land plants. Now, when people think of organisms such as plants, they tend to think of something immovable, somewhat inert. In the microscopic world, this isn't always the case. Organisms very closely related to plants can be motile, they can move about. But with any plant, if you peek inside, as we are doing here, you can see it is anything but inert. By compressing the light that I am working with to a single point at the center of the slide, I can force it to spread outward, greatly enhancing the contrast. And in this way, we can clearly see the cytoplasm coursing through the microbe, somewhat like blood. And changing once again to our false lights and looking at the very point, we see something fascinating. Those energetic little particles at the tip of the Closterium, those are vibrating crystals of barium or calcium sulfate. And to this day, scientists have no idea what exactly they are for. However, in shooting this image, I have oriented the Closterium to the north. And when I did, the crystals oriented themselves northward. I don't think the great mystery can be as simple as these crystals are some sort of internal compass. And what use would an alga have for a compass? Nonetheless, it's a fascinating incident, even if only a coincidence. This relatively large and busy creature is a species, I believe, of Gastropod. They can range in size from microscopic to just barely visible at 3 millimeters, which is a mountain in the microscopic world. It is natural that they are found in the substrates of a riverbed because they are benthic and are fairly common in riverbeds, lake beds, and even in the beds of saltwater bodies. It is surprising to me to see them here though, as I have not before seen any evidence of them within the microcosm. But as the mesocosm's ecosystem matures, and new organisms are coming to the fore, I'm thinking that we'll see more and more of these. Once again, manipulating the light digitally, I've created an artificial fluorescence so that we can look into the heart of the gastrotrick. Like tardigrades, these are microscopic multicellular organisms. It has a brain and a digestive tract that goes back toward what you might think of as a large stomach, its digestive area, that hazy area toward the back half of it. These organisms are genetically related to mollusks and nematodes, as well as flatworms. The common name of the gastrotrick is the hairy belly or hairy back. Continuing to work with digitally created false fluorescence, I have removed all lights except for the red frequencies. This range of the spectrum allows us to resolve much more detail, and here, among the red world surrounding the gastrotrick, you can see the many, many hairs that entirely cover the gastrotrick's body. These are not hairs like one would find on a modern mammal. These hairs are motile, and the gastrotrick uses them to move, and very likely the large hairs to either side of the area that we might think of as its head serve in a sensory role. Gastrotricks are detritivores. They form an essential part of the ecosystem and can be found in the beds of lakes, seas, and rivers among colonies of algae where various clusters of bacteria and other microorganisms have come together. There they feed on dead and living organic material, including diatoms and algae, and they excrete nitrogenous waste, recycling the nutrients that they consume back into the ecosystem. In this way, it could be said that they play a role in the beds of water bodies that are very similar to the roles played by earthworms and other terrestrial detritivores. Observing them, one can frequently see bits of detritus becoming stuck in their hairs and being dragged along with them. Like earthworms on land, they doubtless play an important role in turning over the soil of lake, river, and seabeds. Unfortunately, as is the case with so many of the microscopic animals, their behavior has been little studied, and apart from a fairly basic understanding of their role in the environment, little is known about the gastrotrick. In coming episodes, we'll take a deeper look at the many organisms within the mesocosm, but we're also going to go beyond the mesocosm and study the beautiful microscopic creatures and structures of the natural world all around us. Thank you for joining on this voyage of discovery into the Microstory. The Microstory channel is part of the UNDERSTORY network, a series of channels promoting education about natural science and the conservation of the beautiful world that surrounds us. Small but growing channels, they are made possible by our many viewers, patrons, and those persons and businesses that have helped us acquire the resources and equipment necessary to produce high-quality programming. If you enjoyed today's program, please take a moment to like, and also take a moment to subscribe. It costs nothing and never will, but it sure helps. And keep watch here and on our sister channels for future episodes.